Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian.
And I'm Danya. How are you?
Welcome to Genealogy Adventures. And as always, thank you so much for spending the next hour with us, no matter how you're tuning in.
Yes. Thank you for doing that. And for those that, from what I hear, according to Brian, we not supposed to be watching the Super Bowl. So, um, I don't know. Don't watch the Super Bowl, but I don't know. I've removed my I've removed myself for a brief moment. I have to grasp me right now because that stuff was sucking me in, and I definitely suggest that others kind of back up, think about what they need to do, and then step back in. I'm not telling because I am definitely stepping back in for those that saw my thing. But yes, happy fourth installment of Black History Month from Genealogy Adventures.
Mhm. Would you mind doing the top of the introduction? I have to do age verification for TikTok. We're trying something new today. It looks as though Danya may have frozen, so it's going to be me. I will hold up on TikTok for the time being. Yes, so again, are you back, Danya?
Am I back?
Are
I'm
you?
back.
Yes, you're back.
Okay, so I'll take care of it. You go ahead.
Thank you.
Just to let everybody know, we are trying something new today. We are trying to stream live on TikTok, which will add a new place for our show. And then also, just trying something new. But let me talk about what today's show is. Today's show is about black towns, the erasure of black towns, the towns that nobody knew about, where our families just kind of our ancestors, they went there. The ones that you know about the most is the Black Wall Street. This is what we're talking about.
Mhm.
So, with that being said, we're talking about the Black Wall Streets that happened well before Black Wall Street.
And we are now live on TikTok. So thank you. Welcome to all of the new people who have been following us on TikTok, giving me love and support, and Donnie love and support.
Yes,
So
thank
this,
you. I'm not on TikTok, but hey, y'all, hey.
so this is our first ever live TikTok screen. I'm sorry I'm not looking straight at you because we're actually broadcasting on our network platform, but at least you'll get the gist of what we're talking about.
Most definitely.
Mhm.
And if you like it, definitely come and join us, whether it's on E360 TV, on your phone, through YouTube, Facebook. We are everywhere. So join us.
So I just want to say on the top of this show, this is Black History Month. This show fits within our Black History Month programming. We have racked up so many new followers and subscribers from all walks of life. And I want to just say that this show is going to be unapologetically black. It's going to be blackety, blackety, black. And if that's going to make you uncomfortable, you may want to skip this episode because we're going to be a little bit raw on this one.
Melanin popping, baby. Melanin
And
popping.
rebellious. I'm wearing my rebellious t-shirt.
We into
Um, so even though we're smiling, we're going to be tackling a very heavy subject today. And what made both of us think about it, I phoned Dania. I was really angry. Now, first of all, I just want to say I did not have myself being ever active on TikTok on my 2025 bingo card to say that our network, E360 TV, has begged Donnie and I, well, not begged, asked us over the years to do live TikToks. And I wasn't about that life. I wasn't feeling it. But the last election activated me, and I'm now doing live TikToks. So now we're doing a live TikTok streaming. And some of the comments that I got really just made me very angry. Donnie is always a great support person for me, and she can talk me off a ledge. She and my sister are the only two human beings who can do that. That is their superpower. And the phrase that really got me angry was, well, Black people just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And I went, what effing bootstrap? What bootstrap are you talking about? Because our ancestors did that coming out of slavery when they didn't have boots or bootstraps and
that
still
part.
managed to do it. And
That
the other
part.
folk obliterated all of those achievements in an instant, just gone.
Yeah, I have always said that, in my research, that was something that I learned how we really just, came out of slavery running. We didn't come out walking. We came out running. We didn't come out crawling. I mean, none of that. And I learned in my research that that is what scared white people the most, because we came out doing the things that we did. And this is just yet another moment and another time where we're showing, we're proving that this is a part of history that's not being taught, that you need to share, that needs to be told, of what our families did, of what our ancestors did, of what other Black people, whether they're family or not, just what they did. And the stuff we're about to introduce to you guys, they not only did that, they figured out integration. They figured that stuff completely out. And that's something that seems to be so hard to do today. And they were doing it back then.
Mm-hmm.
That part.
Real. And we will be getting into that.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Because that was news to me. I learned that for the first time, actually doing a deep dive into the history of the towns that we're going to be towns and villages that we're going to be talking about.
Okay. So
first up is Seneca Village,
okay.
Which now lays underneath part of the northern part of Central Park in New York.
Yes.
Do you want to take the top of it, going in the background about who?
So I'll go into the background about it. Basically, Seneca Village was founded by a man named Andrew Williams. He was a shoe shiner, and he actually did a lot of different things. But the main thing about him was he was a free person of color, wasn't he?
He was indeed.
Yes, he was a free person of color. Seneca was founded in 1825. Catch that date. Catch that timing. 1825. And Seneca Village, according to some of the research that I ended up finding, was actually populated from another portion.
I think we may have temporarily lost Anya. So the plot of land. Oh, you're back. I just saw your hands move. Or not. So where this was in Seneca Village was actually part of a much older established neighborhood. And in this time period, lower Manhattan, yeah, Donnie, you may have to come out and come back in again.
What is
Danya, we can't hear you.
I'm not.
Oh, I've got you twice now.
Yeah, I see that. I'm trying to remove this one. It won't even. Okay, I'm gonna close out.
Okay. So in this time period in the 1820s, lower Manhattan was over congested. And actually where Seneca Village actually was created, believe it or not, was a very rural part of New York, just outside of New York City. It had rolling hills, it had farmland. And that's where this Black settlement's roots grew out of. And actually, it wasn't just free people of color and people escaping slavery who were the original inhabitants. This is something else new that I learned that Donnie was referring to earlier. Irish immigrants and German immigrants who were also tired of being persecuted and all the prejudice and hatred directed towards them, they settled this place too. And they lived harmoniously with the free people of color. And while the rich down in lower Manhattan started to paint this part of New York as shanty towns, which we're going to see is a fairly common theme and accusation hurled against majority Black, if not exclusively Black neighborhoods. So the accusation was that this was just nothing full of shanty towns and crime and bad behavior. And the real reason why they wanted to create Central Park is they were nervous that New York was just going to be a congested place. They were envious of places like the Champs-Élysées in Paris or Kensington and Hyde Parks in London. And they wanted to recreate something like that. Well, inconveniently, Seneca Village was in its way. And then that's when we start seeing the propaganda about shanties and safe harbor for escaped slaves, and just all of the usual negative propaganda that is always associated with Black people. And as a matter of fact, I think you could just say Black and it's just short code for like bad neighborhoods. We have that.
That
Do we have
yeah,
that? Or do we not have that to this day?
yes, yes. Can you hear me now?
I can
Am I
hear
back?
you. I can hear you and see you. You're flowing and beautiful. You were
Oh,
just all frozen and choppy before.
well, I do want to, because you didn't know about the York Hill.
Right.
And I wanted to definitely complete that part. York
Mhm.
Hill was actually under what is now the Jackie Onassis Kennedy Reservoir. That's in the middle of Central Park. And York Hill was there, and then York Hill then populated Seneca Village. So that's where I got broke up at, and I wanted to let you guys know what that was. I do not have a date for York Hill because they aren't certain of the actual date, but everything was in those early
Mhm.
1820s.
So Ndonga makes a good point because that lake acts as a good reference point, and Seneca Village was just to the south of that lake. So
Yes,
that whole part of Central Park used to be rural farmland that became a series of little villages
yes.
that all got literally just obliterated and wiped off the face of the earth.
But did you explain to that? Because I didn't hear it. Did you tell them how they lost that spot? Or are you getting
I was building up to that.
okay, good.
If you want to take that.
Okay, so basically, each one that we're talking about, there's a different way or a different form as to how they were taken from these Black people. This particular one was taken via eminent domain. They basically just snatched it from them. They wanted them to leave. And like Brian was saying, when I came in, they called them shanty villages, saying that they were just people who they were vagabonds. I think I read that in
Mhm.
one, called them vagabonds. These people are just living just to be living in a space, and we need this space because we want this park, and I think you should make this happen. And so that New York State government say, okay, you're right, get out. They just took it. If no one knows what eminent domain is, that's what it is. DC has that. You do not own the land that your house is on in DC. And if they decide to come through a street and take a piece of that, they need that street for something, then they will do that.
And
Perfect
sometimes
example.
And sometimes with eminent domain, they will pay you. The state or local government or federal government will pay you. They did not pay the people in Seneca. And I really wanted to paint just a broad picture of what that place looked like. Because archaeology, a whole series of archaeological digs revealed most of the houses were brick. They were not wooden homes, they were brick homes. And they revealed a story of a very prosperous village. It was it was working class, a solid middle class, there was an upper middle class, and there were even wealthy households. And they know this because of the porcelain, the grades of porcelain that were coming out that they were digging up, the comb, the women's hair combs, jewelry, some of the money that they're finding all of these wonderful artifacts that really piece together the lives of the people who were living there. So
And
for
the type of people that were living there. Exactly. And one of the things that they were saying, because, just like when Brian and I did our research on it, the first thing we find is the write ups about it. So the write ups about it makes you believe that it is people that just really didn't have anything. The write ups. But then when they started doing the archaeological dig and everything, that's when they realized these were upper class folks that had their own bank. They were sustainable, self-sustainable towns, villages that was able to still move and do whatever it is that they could do without bothering nobody.
and tax records and census records show that there were schools, there were churches, there
Yep.
were businesses. This was a self-sufficient, independent community
Yep.
that was largely led by Black people. And the Irish and the Germans seemed pretty cool with that.
Right. And that's where the integration came in. They were okay. They were fine. You know, everybody was living life and getting along until you had this whole group say, "Yeah, I don't think I like it.
Mhm.
Get out." And another thing that's important about it,
Mhm.
it was right when slavery ended in New York. that's something else that's important because slavery ended in New York around 1925, 1926, maybe even 27. And this they had already formed it. So
Oh,
now the
you mean 1800s?
I said 19, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
1825,
Yeah.
1826. So this was happening right when slavery ended or right after slavery ended. So I want y'all to know that and to just listen as we go into other
Mhm.
um, places.
So the history of Seneca Village, as we said, it's established in 1825 and it starts to take a turn in 1853 when the wealthy and the elite of New York City decided they needed to have this park. They needed to be on par with the Paris and London and European capitals. um, and they were fully aware of this neighborhood that was inconvenient and they're like, yeah, whatever, we're just going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
They were literally pulling people from their homes. So I don't
Yeah.
even want to make this for those a lot of you who are like, oh, I'm not my ancestors. You only wish you could be, because these people put up the hell. There was no way that they could take. We all know how corrupt politics were back then. We know how corrupt New York politics. All I have to say is Tammany Hall as a prime example of that. These people didn't stand a chance fighting the power system, but they gave it everything they could to the point where they were literally being dragged out of their homes, not even
Mhm.
given time to pack up their belongings before they were being pulled down.
Yeah.
The trauma, the
This was a
trauma.
hard. This was a hard thing to just research. You can imagine the traumatic experiences that they went through, and you're sitting here reading about it, and it's traumatic just reading about it.
And the really sad thing is, once the town was gone, all memory of it, probably apart from the black people who were removed from there, and the Irish and the Germans, it was just forgotten. And to this day, there are New Yorkers, and we're talking multi generational New Yorkers who had
That knows
never
nothing.
heard of Seneca Village, never knew that it existed, never knew what was underneath their feet in Central Park.
Yes.
So that is the first one, unless there was anything more you wanted to say on Seneca Village, as though that wasn't bad enough. So the next one is in just side of New Orleans, Louisiana. It has a couple of different pronunciations, but we want to pay respect to the people who lived there and their descendants. Fazendeville, Fazendeville Village, which is in St. Bernard Parish in Louisiana. And did you want to do your top part for that?
Because
Oh,
I
so the backstory to Fazendeville is in 1867, a free person of color whose name was Jean-Pierre Fazendeville, he had a parcel of land that he owned, and he sold it to freed men and women. These are people who were literally had been enslaved, were now out of slavery. We refer to them as freed men and women. And he was actually selling them subdivisions of 40-foot plots. Now, the reason,
question. I want to ask you a question.
sure.
We know that he was a free person of color because we have a link that we're going to share with you guys to be able to watch this information, and you're going to see one of the descendants of Pierre.
Mhm.
My question to you, Brian, do you think he identifies as white?
No idea. I'd have to research that. I wouldn't even attempt to guess. That's my honest answer.
Yeah, I've wondered because he's
Oh,
very free.
him, not
Yes.
Pierre, not Jean Pierre, but his
No, his
descendant.
actual descendant. Do you think his descendant?
I would have to ask him. I mean, he is white presenting. There's no doubt about it. He is white
Yeah,
presenting, but how he self-identifies, I would have
I,
to.
I do wonder because he was very open in talking about this whole
Yeah.
situation. He knows that what I think it was his great great grandfather. He
Yes.
knows that he was a black man. He was a mulatto man. He knows that. But I wonder how he identifies because he's very light, y'all. Very light. You'll see.
He's white, like I said, white presenting. This one hits me different because the actual village was located on a piece of land that formed the Battle of Chalmette. It's the Chalmette battlefield just outside of New Orleans. It was like either the last or one of the major battles of the War of 1812. It happened in 1815. For instance, if the British had been successful in capturing the Charleston, sorry, not Charleston, I got Charleston on the brain, New Orleans as a city, they would have controlled the entirety of the Mississippi River region. They would have
Right.
controlled all of it. So
Right.
that's what made this battle so important. And actually, with the Americans winning it, and again, I learned this in the documentary that Donnie is going to share with you. This was celebrated like the 2nd July, 4th of July.
Right.
It could have easily gone south for the Americans, and they would have lost huge amounts of territory. So in 1867, he sells this parcel of land to these families, um, who actually built a thriving village. Again, it had, the homes weren't enormous, but they were nice little homes. They were neat. They were nicely kept. I think they said they were all like freshly painted white with red or green trim.
Red or blue.
Red and blue. Thank you.
Red and blue trim.
And actually, if you're African American or Creole from Louisiana, if you can explain the significance of that for us. I'm just curious. I get the White House part. I don't get why those two choices for the trim. I just wonder if there's like a spiritual or some kind of significance to that. But I'm getting off topic. There were homes. There was a church. There was a one-room school. There were community buildings. It was a community that they built from nothing. There was nothing there. Built it from nothing. It had benevolent societies, and those were really important for African Americans. They were all over the place. I'm just saying again. This was mentioned in this particular documentary. They had benevolent societies, which they created. It would pay its members burial costs because Black people couldn't get insurance. We couldn't get insurance. So these were our insurance agencies. These benevolent societies actually became Black-owned insurance agencies. Not sure what their fate was after integration, but these were essential to the functioning of a community. They policed themselves. They were entirely independent. Then there's a road that formed a natural barrier. On the other side of the road was a monument, the Chalmette Battlefield Monument that people raised money for and they built, and there was a beautiful park there. Then there was a road, then there was a field, then there was the village. That wasn't good enough for some people. They needed to have they claimed they needed to have the whole field was it 1965? It was around the Civil Rights. Oh, it was 1964 because it was the same year as the Civil Rights Act was passed.
It might have been 63, like right before, because we got to remember Kennedy died in 64.
Oh yeah, that is true.
So it may have been between 62 and 63 that actually happened. And the story with Kennedy in this, you guys are it's crazy.
So the other folk decided that they needed to have like a grand kind of observance of the 150th year anniversary of this particular battle. That was the official line. And again, through eminent domain, the Black families were cleared out, and they weren't happy about it. You'll hear about it in the video. Land ownership and home ownership is important for everyone. I understand.
This wasn't eminent domain.
They just took it.
They were paid. They paid.
Oh,
This was the one that were paid. They were paid. This one was
insult to injury. So in the same documentary, they said the average land and property and land value in St. Bernard Parish in this time period was $19,000. These people at Fazendeville, they got $4,000 for their homes, which wasn't anything. They couldn't go anywhere else to buy what they had lost.
Right. And these people in Fazendeville, they were determined, just like the ones in Seneca. Understand this. Everybody was writing letters, doing things, getting lawyers they were trying their best to keep what they had created. For Fazendeville, one of the guys, he was like, I'm not moving. Y'all can't make me move. I'm not going.
There was a man who nearly died in a car accident. He had broken his neck.
Yes.
He was still sending letters.
Yes.
To the White House, to the Interior Secretary.
Yes. And what bothered me the most was that you had people, you had men who was fighting the war, because this was also during the Vietnam War. It had a lot to do with that. And as they came home, when they came home to somewhere else. There is one person that is a descendant from there that actually lived there. And he was like, when I left, my house was there. When I came back, my house was gone. He said, I have not even been over in that area since
Mhm.
I left for the war. Because he was like, as far as he's concerned, he has no home to go to.
And I was going to say, home ownership and land ownership to Black Americans, especially in that, actually, this instance, I'm going to say African Americans, those of us with roots here before the end of the Civil War, it means something different to us. For my great grandparents and my great great grandparents, that was a dream.
Yep.
That was an ambition. And to, for those of my ancestors who, some of my enslaved ancestors coming out of slavery, their white fathers did give them land and some money, but that was the exception. That was not the rule. And I'm thinking of my Edgefield folks specifically. Land ownership was a dream. Danya has a family member, Enoch Peterson, who re-enslaved himself at the end of the Civil War to purchase land to build a church.
Yep.
The
See?
Springfield Baptist Church in Edgefield, South Carolina still stands on that land. That man,
Highway 25.
and we're using that term specifically because that's the term that was used in the deed that he signed his name to.
Yeah. Indentured slave, not indentured servant.
Mhm.
Indentured slave. That's what was
That
up.
is how important land ownership was to
Yep.
our ancestors. And again, y'all are going to get bored of me saying it, and I'll keep saying it. Black people are one of the few people in the United States of America that managed to find a way out of no way. We set our sights on a goal and we don't let anything stop us. When we put
What's
our mind,
funny, what's funny is what you're saying is the same thing that the lady said when she was talking about hogs and all that stuff. And she talked about chitlins. She said we made a way out of everything. And she couldn't stand chitlins. And she told everybody what it was. And it was really, but you're absolutely right. She was like, we had this, that was all that we had. So this is what we fixed. We made a way out of it.
and we don't, okay, many of us do not delude ourselves. We've had this torturous pas de deux tango duet with the other folk for 400 years. So we know that everything that we get, we have to fight for.
Everything consistent.
Everything. And it goes back to this. These people create, they wanted autonomy, they wanted self determination. Apparently, every other group of people in this country can get it except for Black people. And they had it for a while up until 1963. And then they were forced, they too were literally forced out. As Donnie said in this documentary, there was one family, I think it was a brother and a sister, and then his sister, his niece. His
Hmm.
sister's like, he had to tell his sister, you have to go.
Yeah. He was like, I need you to come on because we're not doing this today. Come on, we gotta go. We gotta go. It's nothing else we can do. They at least the one thing about Fazendeville is that they got the money.
They
But
got the
they was
money. But
but even though it wasn't a little bit of, even though it was well less than what they should have gotten, that was way more than what Seneca Village people did
yes,
because they
that is
didn't get
true.
anything. And so that, that's the big thing about this. Now what's bad is that nothing was done in that spot.
No, because you just beat me to it. The thing that the level of pettiness, they did not. Okay, this is now a field. The houses and the buildings, the church and the school, and all of those things have now been bulldozed and eradicated and obliterated. Why did they have to go for the pecan grove? Remember, they said they even tore down the pecan grove.
Yep.
So all that is left now are these beautiful purple irises that people who had lived
Tulips,
there,
purple tulips.
purple tulips, that the women who had lived there had planted, and now they just grow wild in this one part of this whole field, and that is
That's
the only evidence that human beings had ever lived there.
God get mad when you don't recognize the color purple.
Oh,
He
don't he
get
just?
that movie was for real. It's a real comment.
Um, and another thought, Donnie's giving you a thought to think about in the back of your head, and I have another one. And this is what I say about this show being unapologetically blackety blackety black, because we have more towns to go through. And I said to Donnie when we were speaking on the phone doing our pre-production this morning, it's like if all the black tears that had been shed in this country from 1619 to today, if we could gather all of those tears up, we would have another Great Lake, a Great Salt Lake,
We would.
the
He's
size
right.
of the one that's in Utah.
He's right because
Every time we
it's
build
amazing.
something or do something, if we're lucky, it just gets stripped away. If we're not lucky, we die and it just gets completely and totally erased.
Yes.
And we've tried
Yeah.
over and over and over and over and over again, right up to and beyond Black Wall Street, Tulsa.
Yep.
All because people were in their feelings, they were jealous, they were bitter. And I wish I could remember the name of the story, and he summed it up perfectly. We wandered off too far from the plantation for white people to feel comfortable.
Hmm. That part. So we got an answer to a question that you actually
Oh, is this
asked.
about the house color?
Yes, and we can't. Unfortunately, we it will not show up because it's too much to write. It's
Mhm. Or too
Oh,
much to.
there it is. It was able to show, but it she kind of explains what it is. So I wanted to kind of put it up here, but I also, I can scroll
Oh, I
through.
see it. I see it. Mhm.
Yeah, I can scroll through it a little bit just to let you guys see what it says. But one of the reasons is said availability of pigments. Red trim came from iron oxide, an abundant and inexpensive pigment that resisted fading in the sun. So there were several,
Mhm.
she gave a good amount of reasons. So thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Denise,
you.
for putting that up there and the reasoning for it. This is awesome.
See, I always find those kind of seemingly minor details. That's what I find fascinating about history because I know that if it's a consistent thing that a community is doing, it means something, or there's a practical reason for it, as it is in
Right.
this case.
Yes. Yes. So I want to know, if y'all, because you guys are listening in and all that other good stuff, make sure you keep listening. We're gonna, we're gonna talk briefly about another one, and this is one that probably everybody knows. So we're kind of finished with Fazendeville. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, we are.
And I have posted the link for you guys to watch the it's about an hour long short on YouTube about Fazendeville or Fazendeville, depending upon where you're from. But uh I want y'all to at the end of when we finish this third one, I want to know if you guys are seeing the similarities and what you guys think the similarities are. So the third one, go ahead and start it off and then I can.
So the third one, which needs a little bit of context before we get into the actual thing, is Oscarville, which is in Forsyth County, or was in Forsyth County, Georgia. It is now covered by Lake Lanier. Um, honey, mm, you couldn't put my butt on a rowboat and have me go on that lake. You couldn't pay me. You could go, Brian, you could put $1 million in a suitcase, slide it to me, and say, you don't have to pay a single penny in tax on this. Just row out to the middle of the lake and row back. And I would push that suitcase back to you.
Yeah.
Because there is a real belief that that lake is haunted. There's all kinds of tragedies that happen on it
Yep.
every year.
Yep.
And people are convinced that the people who are, the cemetery is underneath the lake. There are remains under that lake in the cemetery, snatch people.
Yep.
For real, you can Google that. You can believe in ghosts or not, but apparently this has an unusual number of fatalities on the lake. There's a wonderful documentary that Danya told me about. I haven't been able to see it yet, called Lake Lanier. So if you're interested in that
And it's
history,
a movie.
oh,
Not
movie,
it's the
okay.
actual movie about Lake Lanier. I won't even watch it because I'm scared of scary stuff. And yeah, so
So this is a more
um,
complicated one because it goes back to our early. So Basically, it was covered in 1956 when the Beaufort Dam was built, but the history of it goes back much earlier to the turn of the previous century. So Oscarville was a majority Black city. It was very successful. Again, range of people from working class people to wealthy Black people, every kind of building and community center and all the usual things that we just gone over. However, and in the 1910 census, there were 1,100 people. And again, showing homes, schools, and businesses. And things turned south around 1911, 1912, when pretty much the Black population of Forsyth County, Georgia, was given the option of leave under your own steam or die. Those were their options. There was no middle ground there.
Well,
And
you missed the part.
that's where I thought you would want to jump in.
The rapes.
That's where I thought you would want to jump in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the reason why there was no middle ground or anything like that is because 2 white women got raped. And they blamed the Black kids. We don't even know if the Black kids actually did the rape or anything like that. It's not. Yeah,
they were never given the chance to stand.
Yeah. That's what that was. And so they pretty much was just, it's funny because they have different write-ups. Like what Brian told you just now, you have the 2 options. Then there's another write-up that I found where they were like, oh, we're just gonna kill everybody in the county. And they killed like 98% of the people in the county. But the worst part about it is whoever they did not kill, they drowned. Because they just opened that dam up on those people. Like that's what happened. Just bow. They just opened the dam up and Oscarville was no more. Mm-hmm. Houses were wiped away. Car, whatever it was that was there at one point, it's not. There is an actual, matter of fact, the picture on our show promo of the cemeteries underwater, that is Oscarville.
Yep, there were even trees.
Yes.
It's saying there are still 60-foot trees under there.
That's crazy.
So a little bit that happened between that 1912 period in the rapes that Danya was talking about. So as a lot of Black people were being either unalived or literally chased out, European Americans started seizing up all of that abandoned land with no rights to it, no legal entitlement to it. They just took it and then they sold it to the local government, which made it much easier for the dam to be built.
Yeah.
Again, there were holdouts. And
the man-made lake to be created.
And the land lake. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, there was no recourse. That's the frustrating thing about the Black experience in the United States. Even when we fight with everything we have and we try to use a legal system that was never created for us, but we still try to use it to get justice, that we actually believe in that. Even our ancestors believed in that.
Yeah.
And still instilled that belief in their children, even when they had everything, their land and their home stripped from them.
Going against them.
Just amazes me that we still believe in the dream of America. And we try to pass it.
When you think about that and you think about what's going on today, I think that's why I am so affected. Just listening to what you're saying, I'm like, because one of my main things is, why hasn't Elon been arrested yet? I'm believing in the justice system. I'm believing in the quote unquote checks and balances that are supposed to be happening, and they don't seem to be happening. Like, what is the issue? Why is this going on? Like, I am not understanding. We're going to stop. So,
no, I don't understand how an unelected person can prevent serving members of Congress from entering a federal building like USAID or the U.S. Department of Education. How can an unelected official? I thought that was Congress. You would need an act of Congress to do that. I got Schoolhouse Rock, I'm a bill, I'm on Capitol Hill running through my head. Didn't say anything about, Didn't say anything about unelected billionaires. Passing, amending, passing, changing,
Listen,
ending, whatever. You know, explain that.
Brian, you trying to pull her out. Don't do it.
Someone, and that we are, and sorry, because Black people, we out. This is not our mess. We stood on business the last election. Y'all who broke this need to fix it. But that even y'all seem to be okay with this.
And you know, since you done brought it in a little bit, I'm gonna tell you, I called my Republican senator, because it's one Republican senator in Maryland, and like maybe 6 or 7 Democratic not senators, congressmen in Maryland, and then like either 6 or 7 Democratic ones. And I even called them and I asked them, like, what the hell, what is your problem? What is going on? Why is this like that? And do y'all know that they feel just as bad as we do? But in the same instance, because dude was just like, when I asked my question, because I asked him in the papoose way, not the Danya way, and I asked him, I kind of snapped. And when I asked him, all he could do was, I don't know. He didn't understand it himself. So I want people to understand that not all Republicans are like that, but in the same instance, y'all sitting there and y'all letting that happen.
Like,
And that's the problem.
and if I'm going to give a quick reference to support what Dania just said, and I want people to Google this. This coup, it may not have the violence of the 1898 Wilmington, North Carolina coup that again saw Black people murdered and unalived in just jaw-dropping numbers, and those who weren't killed having to run into the swamps for safety. That was a coup. What Elon Musk and his buddies and current administration's buddies are doing is a coup, and people need to wake up and they need to be real about that. But again, Black people, we did not cause this. We warned you. Genealogy Adventures, we're supposed to be a Black history and a Black genealogy show. Forwent 3 episodes just to do specials about that. Project 2025 that everyone said Trump didn't support, didn't know anything about. Well, damn if that wasn't his to-do list at the moment with all the flurries of executive orders coming off his desk.
They were the exact
Our
thing.
ancestors must be looking up, going, Lord, our great-great-grandchildren going through all this all over again.
And I see, you bringing her, you really bringing her out, because I'm trying to tell you, I did a whole video for people that are on my Facebook page. They saw it, because I've literally removed myself from Facebook. All I'm doing for Facebook is anything for the show. I'm not responding to anything. I'm not doing all that stuff, because it all became overwhelming. And it became overwhelming again, going back to what Brian was saying, that, these checks and balances are not working. These checks and balances are not doing what they're supposed to do. And to be straightforward and honest, I'm going to sit up here, because this is the Blackity Black show. And because this is the Blackity Black show, I can sit up here and I can say, if Elon was a Black man, and then let y'all finish that statement. You understand what I'm saying? Because if Elon was a Black man, where would we be? What would be happening? If former President Obama did this, what kind of hell would be raised? I need people to think about that. But in the same instance, in the same thought process, if they're following everything that he's doing, see what he's doing, and actually come out your mouth, because the Democratic side that I was calling, they came and all of them said the same thing. We are finding out the same time that you are finding out. Well, if that's the case, because according to them, he's doing everything at night. So because he's doing everything at the dead of night when everybody is asleep, change your sleeping patterns, wake up. But you need to do something. Don't ask me for no money. Don't ask me for none of that, because I'm not giving you money at this point. I will ask me for my time. Ask me for what it is, my time. See what I can do. We got a whole show that we can always open up to a congressperson. Mm-hmm. Give it to them. Let them know. so they can share the truth of what is going on. And this is an invitation to both Republican and Democratic congressmen, women, senators, not the racist ones, because I would not be able to handle it because I need you in my face. I need that. I need you to be face to face with me. I can't do over the internet with you because internet gives people a lot of extra energy and it makes them feel that they can do and say whatever they want. Nah, if you're going to be that person in my face. So I don't want that, but we definitely we are definitely open to interview Republicans and senators, Republican senators, Democratic senators, Republican congressmen, Democratic congressmen, to really talk this out and figure out what's going on. Because we know how to do that, but I need rational people to do that.
Yeah,
Otherwise, y'all gonna see something.
I think even the likes of Scott Jennings would be a little too much for you.
I don't like him. I told him to blink twice because at first I didn't believe that he, really believed the stuff that he does. But now I see he actually believes this stuff. But at one point, I actually I sent him a tweet. I said, blink twice if you're in danger. Because I really just didn't believe that he believed those things. But I want to ask you guys, out of the three towns that we've talked about, what do you guys see as a similarity? What similarities do you see in each one of them? Because that's going to be the big that's what I really want to point out to all. And
Because there is a thread. There is a
it is
common thread that goes through all three.
right, right, right. And what that common thread is, because I'm just going through these right now, but I'm putting it up. But that common thread is the same common thread. I'm gonna give you guys a hint. It's the same common thread that created HBCUs. That's what's crazy. It's the same common thread. And that common thread is the fact that it happened right after slavery ended and before and it within during into the Reconstruction era. That includes Seneca Village. That's why we told y'all when New York's slavery ended, 1925, 26, in Seneca Village. I mean 1825, 26, and Seneca Village was created after slavery. All of these things were right after slavery at one point or another. These three. Matter of fact, there were others because we did find more. Um, to be honest with you, there are hundreds of black towns that we still don't know about. The number is crazy. There was one in Alabama called Coalinga that started in 1890, was ended in 1926, was founded by a former slave named John Jackson Benson. And that's the other common thing. Everybody were enslaved or former slaves or free people of color. That was the other thing. But Jackson Benson, he built farmhouses, sawmill, cotton gin, grist mill, brickyard school, just literally just did the whole nine. How did this go away? Alabama Power Company dams. That's how a lot of these places were flooded. When I was doing my research on it and finding out this stuff, dams were being built right next to these places, these black towns, and they would flood them out. And that's how these places were being lost.
I'm going to say the underlying kind of zeitgeist that underlines all of this, the kind of belief, is just the belief that Black history isn't worth preserving. That's why these places were forgotten. They
Yeah.
were also inconvenient because
Yeah.
the history behind them wasn't anything to be proud of. So there is that. But the underlying belief is that the Black history is not worth preserving, which reminds me, I don't know how, I know everyone is exhausted following the news. There's way too much to try to keep on top of. That's by design. Um, but if you are a professional genealogist or even a really good amateur
Researcher.
genealogist
Mm-hmm.
and historian, um, yeah, the head of the lead archivist for the National Archives in DC was fired overnight, gone.
I just want to know. I just want you to know Shelley answered the question after the Civil War.
Okay. Yes, Nelly, good props to you.
Yes.
Um, so yes, there is now not a lead art. So I'm not. That's the NARA has wonderful archivists. They will keep things ticking over unless they get furloughed. But officially, there is now no one kind of leading the conservation preservation work that is core to that role because she was fired.
Actually, it is. It's Marco Rubio. What are you talking about?
We're still trying to determine if that's true or not.
That's true.
Oh, it is true. Okay.
I mean, no, I don't know. I was just saying I was
Oh,
very
right,
confused. But everybody came up with some good answers as well. Like Joyce Haney, was it no, not Joyce, Lillian, she said black people with self-sustaining sufficiency. And that is true. Everybody in this whole in all of these towns, they were all self-sustaining towns that
right.
could just move and do whatever it is that they needed to do. So it's just a wonderful thing.
But again, we did it. We did what we were supposed to do. White people didn't want us living around them, so we didn't. We built up our own communities, literally from nothing, from the ground up. That wasn't good enough. That was a threat. So you get burned out, flooded, removed.
Yeah.
But we still get that accusation. Y'all just need to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. How many times? How many times? How many? How many is enough?
And Linda answered it, and I think this is a good way to end the show. Until USA acknowledge its true history, they will continue to try to destroy. I mean that's it. That's the
All
answer.
I have to say is from now on, from the future, whatever Black people build, we need to protect each other. We need to protect what we build. We need to own it, protect it. And if that includes night watches and having our own police forces, then so be it. Because
Yeah.
at this point, I don't trust I trust very few people.
It's funny because one of the things that I found was through Amber Ruffin's show, and she was like, "This, if nothing else, what we're talking about, because she talked about it too, and if nothing else, you need to look at lakes funny now. Any man-made lake, pay
Mhm.
attention to it because you never know what it was. Because just like Cultural Connection said, North Fork Town is located under the Lake Eufaula. I found that. The names, guys. Alabama has so many, and Alabama Power Company wiped them all out. Alabama Power Company, they wiped them completely out. It was crazy. But I mean, you had some in Oregon, some in California, they were in Indiana. They were everywhere. They were everywhere. So we didn't, like Brian said, we pulled ourselves up. And how many times do you want us to pull ourselves up? And my answer to that is that they don't want us to pull ourselves up. They just want us to stay low. They don't want us to be good. They don't want things to be okay. And you can see that by the new administration that's in the office right now. Anytime he can come out here and say, "Oh, I want all of the white people from South Africa, none of the black," or "I want," we can look at all the pretty people in schools and this, that, and the thing. I mean, it's just so much different stuff that this man has said that is over the top.
But that, again, that shows a fundamental lack of understanding of Black people, Black Americans, African Americans, our history in this country. We have always been a people of excellence, even our ancestors who were enslaved. How
Yeah.
many enslaved people came up with ingenious ways of doing anything?
The cotton gin.
A cotton gin. Thank
I mean, but we are running out of time. I don't know. Maybe we should have done a show, a 2 hour, where we could go through all of this stuff. I don't know, and maybe we still will. But again, watch your man-made lakes,
Mhm.
and we will definitely be back next week.
Anytime someone claps back at you and hurls the stupid phrase, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, send them the link to this show.
Yep.
Send them
Tell
to.
them no, that's bull. Give the deets on my T-shirt. Sheen. That's where I got it from. Sheen. And now it may cost the arm and the leg because of the tariffs that's
Oh,
being
mhm.
put on. So with that being said, I'm Danya.
I'm Brian. Thank you so much for spending this hour with us, and we will see you next week right here, all the usual places you catch us at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye.